Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting for December 16th, 2025, our last meeting of the year. Ms. Hilbrick, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilman Kidder?
Here.
Councilwoman Butler?
Present.
Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young?
Here.
And Mayor Crocker.
Here. If you would, please rise, join me for the pledges, followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. All right. Again, welcome, everyone. We will jump straight into our agenda this evening, and we'll start with item B1, announcements and reminders. Mr. Garza, do you have anything for us this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have several announcements for you this evening. I want to begin by reminding the public that all non-emergency city offices will be closed on Wednesday, December 24th and Thursday, December 25th in observance of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Offices will reopen at 8 a.m. on Friday, December 26th. All non-emergency city offices will be closed Thursday, January 1st as well in observance of New Year's Day. Offices will reopen at 8 a.m. on Friday, January 2nd. In relation to those holidays, garbage normally collected on Thursday, December 25th will be picked up on Wednesday, December 24th. Curbside recycling and yard waste scheduled for Thursday, December 25th will be collected Saturday, December 27th. All collections scheduled for Friday, December 26th will continue as scheduled. Extra holiday trash will be collected during your regular trash day on the week of December 29th through January 2nd. And lastly, yard waste will not be collected December 29th through January 2nd to accommodate those extra garbage collection services. And lastly, the Victoria Public Library will be closed on December 24th and 25th and reopen at regular hours on December 26th. I know that sounds like a lot, and so for more information, you of course can visit our website, victoriatx.gov, for more information. In addition, on behalf of our Convention Visitors Bureau, the last day to check in to participate in our You'll Love Shopping Victoria campaign is Saturday, December 20th. The drawing for gift bags will take place on December 22nd. To join before the promotion ends, head to discovervictoriatexas.com and click on You'll Love Shopping Victoria. On behalf of CVB, we'd also like to invite the public to help us ring in 2026 at the annual New Year's Eve Blast-Off that'll take place in Riverside Park from 6 to 9 p.m. Enjoy live music from Crowbars the Band and Velvet Drive, along with inflatables, a free photo booth, and face painting, and giveaways from Discover Victoria. Grab a bite to eat from some of Victoria's favorite food trucks on site and find a great seat in Riverside Stadium for a front row view of the fireworks show at 9 p.m. And lastly, on behalf of Environmental Services, all residents who participated in a Keep Victoria Beautiful cleanup event in 2025 are invited to join us on Thursday, January 22nd from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Victoria Community Center Annex for the annual Keep Victoria Beautiful Volunteer Appreciation Event. This is always a great event that, of course, honors all of our volunteers throughout the year, and so we look forward to doing that once again, and hopefully you're able to join us as well. Those are all the announcements I have for this evening, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Garza. We will then move to public and employee recognitions, and we will start with item 2A, recognition of outgoing board or commission member. Ms. Hilbrick.
Yes, sir. Council and staff would like to recognize Ms. Sarah Zeller. Ms. Zeller served on the Library Advisory Board from 2022 to 2025. The city appreciates your willingness to serve your community, ma'am, and presents you with this plaque in appreciation of your time and service.
Thank you very much for this recognition and for the opportunity to serve on the board. I grew up in Victoria, and my mom took us to the public library at least once a month. It's where I introduced myself to lots of great mystery series and Billy and Blaze and American Girls and all these other wonderful books. I'm so thankful that we have a library in Victoria. My interest in serving on the board was sparked by my own children, taking them to the library frequently and wanting to see the library be the best it can be for the people of Victoria. I wish all the best to the ongoing board members. I know they'll do a great job. Thank you to Jessica and her staff for all of their hard work. Thanks to all of you for the opportunity, and to Mr. Bachnight for voting me in on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeller. We appreciate your service to our community. Thank you. Mr. Garza, do you have any other public employee recognitions for us?
I do have a couple of employee recognitions.
Okay.
I want to first introduce to you and to the public our new Assistant Director with our Parks and Recreation Department, Randy D. Hurdy. He has been hired as our Parks Maintenance and Golf Services Assistant Director. As you know, recently we restructured our Parks and Recreation Department and now has 2 Assistant Directors, with Kate Garcia recently being promoted to the 2nd. In this role, he will oversee the city's park maintenance operations and Riverside Golf Course, ensuring that facilities are well maintained and meet the community's needs. D. Hurdy previously served the City of Madison Parks and Recreation Department for 7 years, starting as a rec aide and working his way up to the role of operations superintendent. Parks and Rec is his second career. He had a very successful business prior to that, and thus has over 25 years of personnel and business management experience that we look forward to taking advantage of in his new role. And so, Randy, if you wouldn't mind giving a 20-minute speech.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council and City Manager. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's an honor to be here in Victoria working with y'all. In the 7 days I've been here, found out how a great staff that we've got at Parks and Rec. And just thank you for the opportunity, and remind the public, come out and visit our great parks. And thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Randy. Recently, I had an opportunity to attend our Victoria Police Department's promotion ceremony that took place on December 4th. And it was very, very inspiring. Right now, there are a lot of great things going on with our police department, ranging from the new public safety headquarters facility nearing completion to just the enhanced pay program that went into effect in October. Interim Chief Fetters has done a tremendous job leading that department. And part of that, of course, is having the right people on the bus and in the right seats on the bus. And certainly this promotional ceremony falls within that. And so I want to recognize and ask them to stand if they're present to recognize their promotions. James Collins, who has been with the VPD for 16 years, was promoted to sergeant and will supervise the training and recruiting unit. Robert Dial, who has been with VPD for 17 years, was promoted to lieutenant and will serve as the B Company Watch Commander for Patrol, and I believe he's here. So Robert, thank you, congratulations. And Mike Hernandez, or Racket? Big Racket. Big Racket. Thanks for the clarification. He's been with VPD for 36 years, has been promoted to captain, and will serve as a patrol division commander. These leaders will play a key role in VPD's bright future, and we look forward to their leadership. Words can't begin to describe just the feeling that everybody in the room felt listening to their passionate speeches as they receive these promotions, earn these promotions, I should say. They're very committed, very loyal to our department, to our community. We are blessed to have them protecting and serving our community. So I look forward for their leadership, and hopefully under Interim Chief Fetters' leadership and their promotions, we can continue to encourage our younger officers to make a long career out of this, because we have a great community, great department, and there's obviously opportunities to progress. And so congratulations, and we wish you all the best. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then. Are there any items from council this evening? Seeing none, okay. We will jump into citizens' communications. I have quite a few cards this evening, so just as a reminder to those of you who intend to speak, please keep your comments at 3 minutes, just for the sake of time for all involved. So we will start with Mr. Steve Moses. Welcome, Mr. Moses.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything in front of me. I want to address the Honorable Council and the Mayor. I always wish the best for y'all. Just want to say that I did try to make an appointment with the new interim chief, but I was denied an appointment. So you do have what I have given you from 2 weeks ago, and that is part of protocol for the police department to fill out, either yes or no concerning what's on there. And since I can't address the police department or the head, I will continue to do my best to make sure that that is what y'all have there is proper protocol as a part of the Victoria Police Department, that it will be signed either yes or no. And of course, I would accept whatever it says on there. I will continue to do my best for my loved one that I miss and I love very much. And that's about all I have to say. I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Same to you, sir. Thank you for your comments. The next card I have is Miss Wilma Edwards. Welcome, Miss Edwards. Always good to see you.
Good evening. Everybody, good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if you remember the last time I came, I put myself on the payroll. You remember that? Somebody did. I haven't received any money yet. But I'm concerned about the people in Queen City Park. And I went out again and found some land that could be used to build a building. And somebody was telling me, you can build a building, but then when you put the people in there, you have to have somebody to be responsible for those people that goes in there. So I'm asking you to find some places, move those people out of Queen City, let them know there's a better place than where they are. And I thought about that, they don't even know what a good park looks like. So I don't think they ever was taught or even had a good place to go. So I'm just concerned that if we do something, I think I used the word, just do something, let them know that they care for you. Now, we went over and talked to some of the people, and some of them want to get out of that position of where they're going to go. So some of them came to Silver City, but they all went into one building, one house. So it's a need for us to do something. Please just do something so they know that we care for them. All those people over there, it's not on drugs. All those people, some of those people over have some talent. They need some encouragement. And I'm doing my best to do that, but I need a little more help. And the land that I was talking about, this 3702 North Navarro. I know y'all know about Dick's Food Store, which closed down. And I have the real estate address. Y'all can call and see if we can afford it. And then you have 104 South Navarro. And on that place, the land is just filled up with grass. And that's in the south side of town. And nobody's doing anything about that. And my desire is that we, as Victoria citizens, stop talking and let's do something so the people would know that we care about them. You got to show people. You just can't say, I love you and I'm going to do this and do that. But you have to show us. And that's our job, is to help each other. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, Miss Edwards.
Okay. And I'm gonna give this address to our mayor so he can give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
So next card I have is from Stephen Baca. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman. I'm here to, as a father, to advocate for my children as well as the community's children. So this is in regards to Victoria Public Library again. We were here last meeting, and there's been an opposition out there that's moving against what we're trying to do here as far as with these books that sit in the child section. So we're not, just to make it clear, we're not trying to ban these books. We're not trying to not make them available at all. We're trying to move them from the children's section a few feet down the hall to the adult section. And that's where they should be, because what's in these books are not appropriate for children. Maybe if you had time, you can look at them and see for yourself what's being put in the children's section. But there was a few removed. That helps. I say removed. I'm not sure if they were completely removed from the library or out of the section of the children's area. But there's still a lot more work to be done. So since I got the time, banning inactive officially, prohibiting something from being done, used, or allowed. Again, we're not trying to ban. We're trying to move these books that are nonsense from the children's section to the adult section. Some of the opposition is using the term education and freedom to allow these books to be there. It's kind of like it's under a guise. It's a loophole. There's no education in there. These kids don't need to read about some of the stuff that's in these books. They need, again, knowledge, more adventures, nothing of the kind that they're trying to put out there. As I read some of the opposition's posts, I run across a comment that's more common than not. It's about, these are our truths. These are our truths this, our truths that. These are full-blown adults saying these are our truths. Okay, be that as it may, your truths are different from other people's truths, and why voice those truths to the children? The children don't, they're innocent. They don't need to know what your troubles are that you had as a child, your personal self. They may not relate to that. You're causing more confusion than anything. When it comes to racism, if somebody was racist to you as a child, doesn't mean you need to put out a book that promotes racism, because that's sending the wrong message. If somebody was racist, if you experience any kind of gender confusion as a child, that doesn't mean all the children are going through that as well. So just look at the emails we've been sending y'all. We've sent y'all a few examples. They speak for themselves. And again, we're not talking about banning it. You know, they're going to be available on Amazon. Check your Kindles. They're available there. You want them, buy them. Don't use the citizens' tax dollars to pay for this nonsense on our shelves. All right, and that's pretty much it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. My next card is Mackenzie Baca. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. My husband just spoke about the opposition growing to what we're doing at the Victoria Parents Book Coalition. I know y'all have been getting emails. I believe maybe some of them are here tonight. You already know our purpose and what our goals are. I just want to read to you some of the books that our opposition want back in the library, or books that are currently in our children's section right now available for our kids. And I emailed y'all, I'm not going to say the names here, but I emailed y'all the names and some of the pictures that are in these books. One of these books is called Auntie Uncle, a drag queen. Oh, it's a story about a drag queen, basically a boy who has a drag queen for an uncle. If you ever been to a drag show or you know about drag shows are not for children. Another book that talks about babies being racist. I don't believe babies are racist. I don't think we need to promote to children about racism, about some people being oppressed or oppressors because of the color of their skin. There is a puberty book that had detailed images of genitalia, which actually goes against the library's own policy, so I don't even know how it made it into the children's section. And it has things about transgender, non-binary, and queer children. There is a book currently in there right now, a puberty book for girls that again mentions that, you know, maybe you were born a girl, but you're not a girl, and has links and information for trans youth, which obviously causes confusion. Some girls are tomboys. It does not mean that you're trans if you're not a girly girl. I grew up where you had tomboys, not transgender boys. One of the most egregious books that I actually found today that I cannot believe is in our library for children is a book about animals, which the cover seems, oh, it's about animals. This book, and pardon my language, this book shows animal pictures, detailed illustrations of animals having sex, deers having threesomes, a bear masturbating, detailed illustrations of animal genitalia, comparing different penis sizes of animals, and a giraffe holding a pride flag as if animals think that way. All of these books, our children, can we just stop sexualizing our children? Our children, we don't need taxpayer dollars to promote this ideology to children. They need to come to the library to learn, to be enriched. If you want to buy those books for your children, that is your right. But it is not the library's job and not our tax fund's job to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baca. Next card is Cindy Zeppelin, I believe. Is it Zeppelin? Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay,
It's
good.
Zeppelin.
Welcome.
I have petitions here signed by,
Okay, if you'd hand them to the officer there. Thank you.
and there's over 500 signatures on there. There are more signatures on this petition than there are members of this group that want to ban books. This is a matter of respecting educated, experienced city county employees over an individual or group without the required relevant education or experience to make decisions for our community. The leader of this group just started a book club to read the classics because she herself has not read them. Will we be letting a person or small group make decisions about our water supply instead of the people we hired for their expertise? Will we let a person from our community take away the position of our road repair workers because they feel that we are repairing roads that they do not value? We have qualified people working in our public service areas, and if the book banner wants to be in charge of a library collection, she needs to earn a degree in library science and apply for the job. And maybe she can get started after reading Jane Eyre or 1984. I'm here to speak up for our library, our whole community, and our city government's ability to interview and hire the best people for the job based on knowledge and experience. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. Zeppelin. My next card is Michael Vondera. Good evening, Mr. Vondera.
Good evening, council, city manager, and the rest of the crew. I'm Michael Vondro. I live at 2107 North Ben Jordan. I just don't think it's right that the city of Victoria has to pay the whole $800,000 since they don't own it. You know, it seems like the commissioner's court should have to pay at least $400,000, at least half. It kind of reminds me, I went on a boat trip with my buddy, and he would take me fishing once a month, and he wanted me to buy a new tire for his boat. I said, you own the boat and the trailer is yours, you know. And he says, yeah, but you go with me once a month. So I said, okay, I'll pay for half of it, half of the new tire. And that's kind of how I think it should be. And I don't see why they couldn't just build a new library at the DPS, you know, for maybe $4 million instead of paying $800,000 for a roof job that's not going to be high quality, just a jerry-rigged roof. And that's just the way I feel about it. And also, we continue having problems with loose dogs. And I would like to see animal control, animal care services enforce the rules. They're not enforcing the rules. One example is a nursery when a dog nearly killed another dog, and they didn't even write him a ticket, you know, one of those $286 tickets, you know, where they go to the municipal court or the JP, and just a warning, you know. And the fines are so lax, it encourages people to run the dogs loose. $25 fine if you run your dog loose and it's has all the credentials, with the dog. It's fixed, and $75 if it's not fixed. And I think they should start writing those $286 tickets to the JP and municipal court and let the judges take care of that. They've been way too lenient, and it's not our job to chase dogs down and give it to the owners and say, oh, is this your pit bull, and I ain't gonna chase no 70-pound pit bull and go door to door looking for who it belongs to. That's animal care services, and a lot of them won't take dogs. Some people in a trailer park wanted to give some cats to them. They said no. To an apartment complex, some dogs, they said no. And that's why the intake is much lower, because they're not accepting that many dogs and cats. They expect us to foster care them or anything like that. And a lot of times we don't have the places or the manpower to do it. Thanks, and have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Vondra. Next card I have is Jeff Bachnight. Did I pronounce that right?
It was close. It was close.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, good to see y'all. Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council, and Merry Christmas to all of y'all. Very different position to be in tonight. Come just ask for your consideration to join the Sales Tax Development Corporation. I think that my experience serving on in the past, as well as on the VEDC board, and knowing about the infrastructure in the city would help out a little bit on the sales tax. I can hit the ground running from day one, just knowing the issues already and understanding where the city is. So thank y'all, and y'all have a blessed Christmas.
Same to you. Thank you, Mr. Bachnight. My next card is William Myers. Good evening, Mr. Myers. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Thank you all for having me. Like Jeff, here to request consideration for filling a spot on the Sales Tax Development Corporation Board. I've been in Victoria 7 years, worked for Frost Bank all those years. I'm currently the market president, and prior to that, formal education. I have a master's in economics, served on several boards here in the community. I think my wife, my daughter, and I are committed to this community, and I'd like to use my skill set to better it and grow it in the best I can. So thank you all, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Same to you. And then the final card I have tonight is Michael Reyes. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Michael Reyes. I reside in Victoria at 122 Creekside Drive. Mr. Mayor and council members, just briefly, I'd like to say that I am interested in serving on the tax board as well. I recently moved back to Victoria. I've lived in Dallas for about 20 years, and I've worked in most major cities in the country and over a dozen countries overseas, and I can tell you that having a vibrant community city, it really makes it great to and inspiring to get up and go to work every day. And so I have owned several multi-million-dollar businesses, and I know a thing or two about paying dues. I also am thinking about consolidating. Well, I've been thinking about and working towards consolidating my businesses in pharma, manufacturing, AI, and biotech here to Victoria. So if I am not put on this board, I know that my good friend Mayor Bachnight and William Myers, who's my banker, will take care of it. So thank you all very much. Have a blessed holiday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. All right, that is all the cards I have, so we'll close out citizens communication, and we will move on to section C, and we'll begin with, this is items with public hearings, and we'll begin with item C1.
Item C1 is the 2024 CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report of the Caper. And there's no vote on this item, it's just simply a report.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Wendell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight we are going over the 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance Report, the end of the year report that we have for our CDBG grant. As a reminder, this 2024 covers the October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025 program year. So the consolidated report is the end of the year report that evaluates our progress made carrying out the community development programs and activities that we identified in our annual action plan. It's required that we have a public hearing before we submit to HUD, and there is no formal action required from y'all. Okay, so for our city CDBG activities, we had our administration, which we closed out, where we will move remaining funds to another CDBG activity. Our neighborhood demolition and clearance, we had 2 substandard structures were demolished using 2024 funds. We'll keep that program open until funds are depleted. And our Bronson Park sidewalk installation project is complete, and we're just waiting on any final invoices and IDIS draw from there, but the project is complete. For public facilities that we funded this year, Boys and Girls Club, their roof restoration, they came in under budget, completed their project. Home of Joseph, we completed outdoor security with their fencing. Came in under budget as well, along with Hospice of South Texas and Meals on Wheels. And then Midcoast, they spent all their money on their industrial kitchen and laundry facility project. And the Salvation Army, unfortunately, had to cancel their program this year because they had some staffing capacity issues. But we'll reallocate all those unallocated funds to future CDBG activities. And then for prior years, we had from 2023 funds, we had our affordable housing program for first-time homebuyer down payment and closing cost assistance. We assisted 1 first-time homebuyer. We'll keep that program open until all funds are depleted for that one. We keep looking for that unicorn out there for those first-time homebuyers. We also had a affordable housing program, the owner-occupied home rehab. We assisted 7 households with home rehabs. The remaining funds will be reallocated along with, you'll see down in 2021, owner-occupied, we also assisted 6. So in total, for rehab, we rehabbed 13 households. And all homes were completed. Their rehab work was completed this program year. And then neighborhood demolition, we had passed funds from 23 and from 22 and from 21. So we had 3 substandard structures demolished from 23 funds, 1 from 22 funds, and then, 1 from the 21 funds. So in total, I believe it was 7. We demolished 7 substandard structures this past year with our demo funds. We will keep that program open until we deplete all those funds. And then past year public facility projects, the first phase of the Midcoast Family Services Day Center / Resource Hub, they completed that project as well. And then our public services, all of them completed their programs. Billy T. Catan assisted 25 individuals with their behavioral intervention program, Boys and Girls Club, 34 children / youth with their summer childcare program and after-school program. We community action with their rental assistance program helped 19 households with rental assistance. Food Bank was able to assist 126 children and deliver 2,566 meal packs with their program this year. CASA was able to assist 25 children under their care. Gulf Bend Wellness Center, they assisted 10 individuals at their wellness community. Meals on Wheels assisted 8 individuals and delivered 714 meals this past program year. OLV Conference of St. Vincent de Paul, one of our new subrecipients, assisted 25 households with utility assistance. And then Salvation Army also had to cancel their public service program, again, due to their staffing capacity. And then United Way assisted 22 individuals with their Community Connections program and VISD Kids Connection assisted 50 children with their Project Success program. Oh, I'll go back. We had a goal with all of them combined. The goal was to assist 325. We assisted 344 total, so we exceeded that by 19. And then for important dates, we had the public comment period on this report from November 22nd through December 9th. And then we're having our public hearing tonight. And then we have the deadline to submit the caper by December 29th, but I plan to have that submitted by the end of the week for sure. So, and then some program year 2025 updates for this next year, which technically started October 1st, but we couldn't start right away. We had the government shut down October 1st. All non-essential federal agencies were closed, which included the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Plan year 2025 grant entitlements were not sent out to grantees prior to the shutdown, so we didn't have our grant agreement yet. Then the federal government reopened on November 12th. Our San Antonio field office, they're currently working on a skeleton crew through the end of the year, and all HUD field offices are unable to process grant agreements at the moment. And our the HUD headquarters has to approve them to send that to us before we can get that signed. There was no timeline, but we did receive our grant agreement yesterday. So we are getting that signed, and as soon as we have it signed, we have to send it back to our HUD San Antonio field office, and then they'll sign it, get it processed, and then send back the fully executed grant agreement.
I signed it
You
today.
signed it? All right, perfect. So we'll send that tomorrow.
That was breaking news there.
Perfect. And then, once we get that back, I'll start setting up all the activities, getting all the environmentals done before we start executing local subrecipient grant agreements. That's all I have.
All right. Any questions? No? All right.
Very
Thank you,
busy.
Mr. Whittle. Then with that, I will open up a public hearing with respect to item C1. If anyone wishes to address council on this item, please come forward. Yes, coming up. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome.
See you too, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Brett Jones. I'm the CEO of Midcoast Family Services, but you may recognize me as Drosselmeyer from Victoria Ballet Theater's The Nutcracker. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. We were a very proud and grateful recipient of the CDBG funds this year and the previous year, and actually many years into the past, we've completed many projects alongside the city. This year, we completed the project in April of our community hub, our community resource hub. And we're really proud of the work that's being done there, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. The community resource hub originally started just to be a day center for homeless people, and it is very much that. But we've also done other things there, like hosted the Victoria Homeless Coalition, or the Homeless Coalition of Golden Crescent, name change there. Their meetings, we have parenting classes, we also host the municipal outreach docket there, and we try to open it up to any community meetings that need to happen. But primarily it is a homeless day center, and every day homeless individuals who live, like in Queen City Park, come in and they can take a shower, they can get food when we have food. We don't have a budget for food, but organizations and businesses have been very generous to us, so we have food to give to them. They can do laundry, we have lockers, they can get their mail there. But kind of more importantly, it's a great place for them to connect and find community. Since we opened in April, we have served 321 unique individuals, unique homeless people in Victoria, and we're really proud of that. We have served them with over 4,200 individual services, and those individual services would be something like they get to take a shower. And I don't know about you, but for me, a hot shower can be life-changing. But I'm just here to say thank you. We're grateful for the partnership, and we really look forward to more in the future as we continue to make Victoria a hospitable and compassionate place. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. We appreciate all that y'all do. All right, is there anyone else that would wish to address council on this matter? All right, seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing on item C1. And we don't need a vote on this, correct? Okay, all right. With that then, we will jump to section D, the consent agenda. Ms. Hilberg.
Yes, sir. Item D1 is the adoption of minutes for the regular meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. Item D2 is a resolution awarding the Pine Street Plant Number 2 demolition project to Leland Landformers LLC in the amount of $117,000. And item D3 is a resolution amending the authorizing resolution for the FY 2026 Truancy Prevention and Intervention Program to add the assigned grant number as required by the Office of the Governor.
Thank you, Ms. Hilberg. I'll entertain any motions with respect to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent agenda is approved. All right, we will now move into action items, and we'll begin with item E1.
Item E1 is a resolution to appoint or reappoint members to the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation Board of Directors.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight will appoint one council member and 2 citizens to the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation Board of Directors. So the terms, 4 members on that board, it's a 7-member board. 4 members serve their 2-year terms that expire on the odd years, and the other 3 expire on the even years. So the term limits, the mayor does serve for the duration of his term as mayor, and directors may not serve more than 3 consecutive 2-year terms. And former directors are not eligible to serve again until they abstain for a minimum of 1 year from the date of their term expiration. The directors originally appointed to fill a vacancy for a partial term, may serve 3 more full terms if the vacancy is less than 12 months. But this time we're talking about full terms for all 3 terms, or all 3 positions. So currently, Mr. Russell Dempsey, J.P. Hull, Casey Cullen, Sherry McShaffrey, Councilman Lofgren, Councilwoman Butler, and Mayor Crocker serve on this board. And as you see, at the end of this month, 3 of them are expiring. Mr. Dempsey, Councilman Lofgren, and Ms. McShaffrey's terms are expiring. So as I stated previously, we just need to appoint 1 council member to replace Mr. Lofgren because he unfortunately has termed out on that board and cannot serve any longer. We talked about term limits just a second ago. And then we would need also 2 citizens to fill the position. Mr. Dempsey has termed out as well and is not eligible for reappointment due to term limits. And as I stated previously, the terms will end in 2 years, so on December 31st of 2027. And Ms. McShaffrey is eligible for reappointment and has expressed a desire to be reappointed if you should so choose. So we did receive several applications for the positions for the 2 citizen-related positions. So from Adam Daughtry, Jeff Bucknight, Michael Reyes, William Myers, David Murphy, and Sherry McShaffrey. So we heard from a few of them tonight. So we had a really good pool of applicants this time. So it's going to be a tough decision. So the ballots were placed on the dais. Let me move back so you can see the applicants. The ballots were placed on the dais. They do include your name because you can't vote by secret ballot, and the ballots will be in my office for review if anyone should so choose to review those. And you'll be asked to circle the name of the 2 applicants that you want to serve in the citizens' positions, and the mayor will discuss the council position with you. But for the 2 citizen positions, if you'll use your ballot to circle those, just remember that the individual has to receive 4 votes or a majority in order to have their name listed in the resolution. So,
Like that time.
thank you.
It's where we need that Jeopardy music in the background.
That was easy with one vote. The names that will be listed in the ballot will be Jeff Bachnight and Sherry McShaffrey for the citizens positions. And I'll let Mayor Crocker talk to you about the.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Obrick, and congratulations to those two. And to those that applied, thank you very much for stepping up. In the time that, at least that I've been on council, this is I think the deepest and most talented ballot that I've seen. So thank you for all of you. Very tough choices, a lot of qualified individuals here. And I would encourage you guys to apply for other positions within the city as well. I'm always looking for good help. So, and congratulations to Mr. Bachnight and Ms. McShaffrey. So. Then we'll need to appoint someone from council. I would like to take the opportunity to nominate Councilman Kidder for that position on the sales tax board.
I accept.
Okay.
Well, then I'll second.
All right.
Oh, unless you were seconding.
I wasn't seconding. I was just letting the mayor know that.
We didn't ask you if you accept. No, I'm kidding. So we have a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations for a council member for appointment? Seeing none then, all in favor of Councilman Kidder being placed on the Sales Tax Development Corporation Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And congratulations, Councilman Kidder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So then I guess we will need a resolution that puts those three names in, and we'll need a motion on that and vote on that resolution as well, correct? That's correct. Okay.
And
Go ahead.
I make that motion that we appoint Sherry McShaffrey, Jeff Bachnight, and Stephen Kidder to the Sales Tax Board.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Thank you, and congratulations to all. All right, we'll move on then to item E2.
Item E2 is a resolution approving a construction contract with Rain King Incorporated to replace the roof of the Victoria Public Library building in the amount of $798,000.
Mr. Welder, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for hearing me, and it's, as always, a pleasure to see all of you. So we're going to go through, I have kind of a lengthy presentation. I've been looking at this stuff for a little over a year, so I may run through some of the technical stuff quickly. If you have questions about any of it, please stop me, and I'll do my best to explain. We'll get started with a little bit of a historic timeline. We started seeing the major roof failure occur summer of 2024. Every roof is going to have a few leaks here and there when they start aging. This roof was purchased that we have now in 2005. So it's pretty old, but in the summer of 2024, we started seeing a lot of failure areas in the roof. So we started to explore options to get that roof fixed or replaced. In the fall of 24, as usual, I tried to do it myself and quickly learned that it was a little bit over my head. So we went out to an engineering firm that specializes in building envelopes, meaning the entire exterior of a building, waterproofing, those sort of things. So in February of 2025, we got a roof evaluation completed and turned into us by the structural engineering firm with a construction estimate. We used that engineering firm to help us develop a procurement. We went out for bids. We received several, I think we had 5, and we finalized the cost at that time. We'll get into those costs and what those scopes of work look like here in a little bit of the presentation so you can see the differences from then and now. But after we finalized the cost, a request was sent to the county for a cost sharing in the project. In fall of 2025, which was pretty recently, we heard back on that request, and it was denied by the county. So we began work with our contractor to decrease the scope and make this job a little bit more affordable while not sacrificing too much quality. And then winter 2025, here we are, bringing this contract to you. A quick excerpt from the interlocal agreement, which I'll just read to you, from the agreement between the city and the county as far as the library is concerned. The city will assume 100% of the cost of the Victoria Public Library, including payment for insurance on the contents of the building, Major capital expenditures on the building at the cost level of $100,000 or more in any 1 year will be discussed between the city and county for an agreement on cost sharing. County will retain ownership of the property and improvements. So on to our existing roof, what we have up there right now. The total area of roof is 27,180 square feet. What is there is a recovery system. It's called a recovery system. The original roof is underneath this recovery system. What is there that you see is a mechanically attached 40 mil PVC single ply membrane. Mil, as it's used in roofing to describe the thickness of the membrane that is on the roof, is defined as 1/1000th of an inch. So this membrane that's on the roof now is 40 thousandths of an inch. That roof is 20 years old as of this year. It's in poor condition. The original warranty on the roof was 15 years. So we got a few more years out of it than the warranty was worth. There are now multiple locations of water penetration. There is exposed HVAC ductwork that's in poor condition on the roof. I'll show you a couple of pictures. This picture is looking south towards Prosperity Bank, which you can see in the background. The roof, as you can see, this sort of gray color is the actual membrane. It was white. This is mold and mildew and other things that have grown on it from water sitting on it and things like that. As you can see, it's very flat. There's very little pitch to the roof. So water can pool. If you see the dark spot off to the right, that's an area where water ponds on the roof now. This is a picture showing some of the ductwork and how it's laid out, exposed on the roof. And the close-up one in particular has been wrapped with the roofing membrane. So 20 years ago when this roof was installed, they knew that this ductwork was a problem. So they were wrapping it with the membrane to try to keep it from leaking. Not all of the ducts are wrapped with this membrane, and you can see the exposed exterior of them. They're cracked and rotted and very brittle. So I'm sure that those are areas that are leaking as well. Current buildings are not built like this. When they build a new building, there isn't any ductwork up on the ceiling of the building, on the roof of the building. So our original solution in our first procurement document was to remove all of the existing roofing material, including the insulation, down to the decking, which is a lightweight concrete decking. We did testing on the decking to ensure that it was capable of withstanding the load and hadn't been damaged by water or anything else. It passed with flying colors, so we know that the substructure is good. The idea was then to fasten new tapered insulation, and tapered is important because we were going to add pitch to the roof to help with drainage. This comes at some cost. The insulation that's on the roof now is only about 1 inch thick. And what was going to go back on the roof was going to be a minimum of 4 inches thick to bring the building up to the energy code requirements. On top of the insulation would be a 1/2 inch gypsum fiber cover board and then an 80 mil single ply PVC membrane. This membrane was a Cadillac membrane, as they call it in the roofing industry. It had a component called Evolloy in it, which would help it resist breaking down in the environment that occurs when water ponds on the roof and the sunlight is magnified onto the roofing membrane. At that point, it becomes brittle underneath and can break just from stepping on it or anything like that. And in the original scope, we were going to replace all the existing ductwork with new ductwork so that it would be sealed off to the weather and things like that, which we learned a lot about this during the process, which I'll explain in the next slide. But we were also going to seal a parapet wall on the inside of the roof. On that picture, you can see that wall extends up. It's about 5 feet tall. We were going to rework all of the expansion joints in between the concrete, as well as put a coating on the inside of that wall that would resist water penetration. We were going to put a coping cap on top, and we were going to rework all of the caulking joints on the outside of the building as well. So the scope was pretty deep. We were going to try to waterproof the whole building. All of this for the cost of $1.487 million. So after this is when we had the back and forth with the county. We went for some VE options, and what we're proposing now today is basically a 1-for-1 swap. And this is allowed, after some conversations with Mr. Rick Madrid, we learned that this is an allowable process to older facilities. But we are going to make some significant improvements to the HVAC. So we were going to remove the existing membrane and cover board, fasten a new cover board, and not go all the way down to the roof decking. Just leave the old roof there. We're going to install an induction weld, a new 60 mil single ply PVC membrane. PVC is important because the library is in a fire district, and you must have materials on this building that are self-extinguishing. So PVC, unlike a TPO roof, will not burn without a fuel source. So it's self-extinguishing effectively. And as you can see, we're kind of in the middle of the thickness range compared to where we are now and where we were going with the original scope. We are going to eliminate all of the exposed ductwork. The air conditioning units will be raised, the ductwork removed, and we will set those units onto new curbs and change the way that the air flows. They're all convertible, and the air will flow down and up instead of out to the side. So everything that we have there will be back in service, but it will just be setting on top of a curb that acts as the duct. Therefore, it is not exposed to weather at all. The vertical joint repairs we're going to keep in this job are going to be on the inside of the parapet wall and the top, but we are eliminating the coating. The new cost after the VE exercise is $798,000. This is a long-term solution. The scope of work aligns with current building codes. As I said, we did speak with Development Services prior to developing this scope of work. The job comes with a 2-year workmanship warranty, as well as a 20-year manufacturer warranty on the membrane itself. The construction timeline, if awarded today, we would begin construction in January, probably mid to late January of 2026, and construction would be completed no later than May 30th, 2026. However, I feel like we would be a few weeks ahead of that schedule. So that's my presentation. Let me know, please, if you have any questions. I'm happy to do my best to answer them.
Questions for Mr. Welder at this point? Ms. Butler.
For somebody that's not familiar with the challenges that we faced with the library, they might be asking, if they're watching at home, insurance, is there any insurance that plays into this, things like that? Can you help explain the reason that we're moving to this with this cost and why there's not that?
Yeah, so as far as
Why would our insurance not be assisting in this? Think of somebody at home, at their home, and what they think of when they think of roof replacement.
Right.
Does that help, Roger?
Yeah, so yes, this is in the normal replacement cycle, so it's not due to any act of God natural event that would have damaged the roof. This is just due to its age and its weathered condition. So there is no one event that occurred that would allow insurance to become involved in this. This is just a normal, regular roof replacement based on its failure due to age.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions about the roofing process? Can you go back?
Yes.
Let me, the timeline?
Absolutely.
So there we go, good. So I understand that the discussions that took place with the county, because just for clarification, and this is a county-owned building. This building is not owned by the city. The discussions that took place with the county about the agreement that we have in place with them for these kind of large replacement items, could either you or Mr. Garza, whoever, walk us through kind of when that took place, and did that take place both when we had the $1.4 million option and when we had the option that's before us today, the $700,000 option?
Sure, absolutely. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I'll walk you through that, Mayor. I personally was the one that was engaging in those conversations with the county judge in respect to the library roof. To your point, we began conversations with the county shortly, even before we completed the structural report that was completed in February of 2025. To Roger's point, we started looking at improvements to the library in the fall, stemming from just operational issues that were observed by Jessica and her team last summer. And so certainly those conversations began then under the original scope, if we can call it that. At that time, there were conversations about splitting the expense 50-50. You may recall 1.5 million, and so there were conversations about potentially splitting that 750. But as you're also aware, the interlocal agreement incorporates other components above and beyond the library. It incorporates components associated with fire and EMS. On our side, it incorporates some components of animal control on the county side. And so the more those conversations continued, the more it became apparent that in order for there to be an agreement on the split of the library roof, we would have had to have had conversations about other aspects of the agreement. And of course, we just were not in a position to do that at that time. And then ultimately, when we presented the lower cost option, that's when the request was basically just denied because of us just not being ready to have conversations about other elements of the agreement, basically.
And so it was presented as a single item request, but the response back was, what I'm hearing you say is, we're not going to talk about the single item unless we can bring up a number of other things in the contract.
That's correct.
Okay. And just to give us a sense, I think those of us up here are somewhat aware, Mr. Welder, you can help us here. We talked about the operational challenges that the existing condition of the roof presents. Can you just kind of walk us through that? What's the problem, if you will, in terms of if you're in the building?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the building, if you actually go in there today on the main floor, near the Main Street side of the building, there is what we call it a rain bucket, but it's a trash can, really, a huge trash can catching rainwater. It is damaging the drywall on the ceiling of the building. It is allowing water to come in several places on the main floor, and if anybody's ever been in the upstairs office area, the ceiling grid has been removed from a whole section of the upstairs due to a massive leak that we have not been able to get slowed down in any way. Anytime it rains, people are scrambling to get buckets under where water's falling. It's potential to cause some electrical issues. If it were to get on anything that would be electrified, that could be a serious issue. Not to mention damaging carpet, drywall, and other things like that. So from a maintenance standpoint, it's pretty sad to go in there and see the brown spots and the holes in the ceiling and stuff like that and the missing ceiling grid. But also it's disruptive. I mean, if it's raining and there are folks in the library and you have staff running around trying to catch water that's falling inside the building, it's just not conducive to operations.
And if this isn't fixed now, would you anticipate that this is just going to get worse? I mean, we're going to have worse and worse conditions with the roof?
Yes, sir. Yes, I believe it would just continue on and get worse over time. More leaks would show up. The membrane is failing, and it seems like each time that it rains, we have a new spot show up.
Okay. Have we had any book damage as a result?
None that I'm aware of.
No, thankfully. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
None that I know of,
none
no,
that
sir.
we're aware of.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Welder? Thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
Thank you all.
So with that then, if there's a motion with respect to E2 and any discussion, we can begin that process.
I'll make a motion to approve E2.
I'll second that.
All right, I've got a motion and a second with respect to item E2. Is there any discussion?
Other than disappointment that we're bearing the full brunt of this, but our citizens deserve this, so we have to move forward.
100% agree.
Feeling.
100%.
I'd like to get back to the issue of the interlocal and holding, while they're tied in maybe one contract, I don't understand how the others affect the roof on this building.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point.
I'm struggling with that when there's a responsibility to an asset that they own and not fulfilling that. and watching that asset really decrease in appraisal value, losing its value without it. I struggle with that, and I struggle with that being the responsibility of the citizens, the taxpayers of the city, seeing as that it's a county-owned asset.
So to that point, I would like to make this request from staff. You know, I know we're all familiar up here with the interlocal, kind of some of the ins and outs. Some of the newer council members may not have walked through it as much as some of us have, but I would like to request that you guys bring to us a presentation, preferably sometime first quarter of next year, and really let's take a deep dive into that interlocal agreement. I'd like to know some of the ins and outs. I'd like to know specifically to the extent that we can to place dollar amounts, specific dollar amounts into services that are provided by the city and services provided by the county. Because I want to get, I think it would behoove us to take a look at that, dive back into that interlocal and figure out, okay, is this really is this really still a good contract? Obviously, that's been in place for a long time. I think probably predates any of us even up here with some amendments here and there. But if I could make that request and we could get that on an agenda, I think that would be helpful for all of us.
I mean, it just occurs to me with the provision that we saw that says that we will discuss it, you know, we'll agree to agree in the future. An agreement like that is a great agreement depending on the quality of the people that are involved at the time that you're discussing it. And that just leaves me disappointed.
Any other comments, questions? No. I will echo that I am disappointed that the county has chosen to take the route that they have in terms of, you know, not participating either in the full fix of the roof on their building, but also just in what I understand will be about a 20-year fix. I will 100% echo your sentiments, Ms. Scott, that, you know, it bothers me, it concerns me that as a city, we're putting money into an asset that's owned by the county. But it's clear from conversations that the county does not intend to do anything with respect to the building. I think the fact that we have to put out trash cans and buckets and that sort of thing when it rains is quite frankly embarrassing. And kudos to Ms. Berger and her staff for really having to work around that. And I think our citizens in our community, whether they live in the city or live in the county, deserve better. And if the city's the one that has to step up and do this for our community, then so be it, and here we are to do that tonight. So, any other discussion? Seeing none then, all in favor of item E2, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. So it passes with one no vote. Dr. Young, correct. All right. We'll move on then to item E3.
Item E3 is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for participating in the regional P25 radio system.
Good evening, Mr. Foote.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is actually going to be combining E3 and E4 together.
Okay.
And before I get into these two action items, D3 and D4, I want to start by thanking the many people and agencies who have helped us to get to this part. This has been a long time coming to this. This has been a work in progress for over a year, and tonight represents a major milestone for Victoria and regional interoperability. First, I want to thank Todd Spencer with DPS. With his team, they came in here this time last year to help us program all of our radios. He sent in 10 technicians, took 2.5 days to program all our radios for interoperability. And he also participated this past spring in our radio roundup. That was a huge success. That radio roundup gave us a great opportunity to identify weaknesses in our own interoperability plan. And so it was a great opportunity. I also want to thank Assistant Chief Ferguson, Fire Chief Ferguson, and also Rick McPrairie with ELC. They also were instrumental in putting this radio roundup on. It was a huge success, and now that is actually being modeled by the state to verify interoperability with other agencies. So it's been a great success. I want to thank Gordon Harkey with TxDOT for his continued support and partnership. TxDOT's willingness to do this and the state's willingness to do this, take this initiative across Texas, that matters. This has been them reaching out to us, to other agencies, and bringing us together, help solve an issue that, quite frankly, we have had in public safety for the past 20 years, and that's interoperability. I will also want to thank council. Last fiscal year, y'all allowed us to purchase those mobile radios. That was a huge part in our radio interoperability plan. And now when it used to take us weeks to program radios, we're now literally programming radios in hours. So that goes a long way. So thank you, council, for that. And also, lastly, I want to recognize one of my employees, Wendell Geigel, who's been instrumental in programming all these radios. He's not only programmed with our new talk group, but he's also programmed with all the state and federal interoperability channels. He's a true guru when it comes to programming, and our ability to communicate with assisting agencies is now only limited by our coverage, our regional area, and I hope we can address that tonight. So now with that, council, we're asking council to approve 3 related actions: amendment to our existing SUA agreement, our interlocal agreement with TxDOT and DPS, and the City of Victoria's participation in a regional system. So this interlocal establishes an initial 7-year term between the city and TxDOT. This agreement includes renewal options, and it's fully anticipated that this partnership will continue through annual renewals beyond the initial term. At no point does this agreement transfer ownership or control of our radio system. The city will retain full ownership and full operational control of our P25 core and all our infrastructure. Under this agreement, TxDOT and DPS will participate in a cost-sharing agreement to assist the city with Motorola systems costs. The city will remain responsible for maintaining its radio sites and related infrastructure, including generators, UPS, tower maintenance, and compound update. These responsibilities are already part of our existing operations and do not represent any unanticipated cost obligations. As part of this agreement, DPS will utilize Victoria's core as a dynamic system resilience, DSR, for their Zone 2. Their primary Zone 2 is in San Antonio at the Quarry Run Regional Operations Center. So Victoria's role as a DSR site provides redundancy, failover capabilities, and continuity of operations for both our regional systems and also all the state agencies that utilize that core. So by joining TxDOT's statewide radio system, Victoria seamlessly gains seamless interoperability with state agencies. We currently have more than 300 state radios already on our system, and we anticipate that we have more radios, state radios, once we join. This partnership allows our talk groups to be extended onto TxDOT towers when necessary, improving coverage and flexibility. This agreement also directly supports public safety operations during emergencies. Our primary evacuation, which is to San Antonio, we will be able to maintain continuous radio coverage back to both our city and county dispatch centers, improving coordination during large-scale evacuations. That's a big win for us right there. From a financial perspective, the state's willingness to share Motorola's system costs allows the city to reinvest those savings into critical radio infrastructure maintenance and upgrades that will be required over the next 5 years. There are some significant things that we have to replace within the next 5 years, and we hope these savings can go to address those. Additionally, the state is also linking grant opportunities like our SERI funding to participation in regional radio systems. That's another reason to join the system. Council may recall that last month we had y'all approve a SERI grant funding opportunity for some radio equipment. Finally, this agreement positions Victoria as a regional hub rather than duplicating infrastructure across multiple counties. A great example of this is TxDOT is planning on building a new tower site along the Refugio-Victoria County line. This is something that we'll be able to use. That is an area that we have traditionally always had poor coverage, and so we'll be able to now utilize that tower site without us having to build a site and maintain it. So that's a great example of how we can utilize their equipment in our locations. So growing regional participation. Gonzales has already joined the state system. Calhoun County is actively working with TxDOT to connect, and discussions are ongoing with DeWitt and Jackson counties. This approach maximizes taxpayer investment, strengthens regional cooperation, and allows Victoria's existing core to be used to its fullest capacity. In summary, this agreement preserves local control, reduces long-term costs, improves system resilience, enhances interoperability, and establishes Victoria as a regional leader in public safety communications. And these are the 3 action items we have for you. I'll take any questions.
And James, just to clarify after that, you're not retiring, right?
No.
Okay.
That's not step 4 on here?
Well, it was just a great speech, you know?
I have no political aspirations.
Okay,
Thank you.
good to know.
You're good with that.
But I do want to echo, though, because James deserves a lot of credit. You know, this has been a personal, long-term goal of his to get to this point. And he's not kidding when he says that it's been a lot of time and a lot of work that's taken place over a year. He deserves a lot of credit. He's had some great support from Gilbert, from Ruby in the city attorney's office. They've done a great job. You know, it's always easy to criticize connectivity of radios or interoperability, you know, after a natural disaster, right? And so the fact that we're at this point doing this proactively to some extent before anything serious happens again, you know, is just key to our mindset of being proactive, being intentional, and just not waiting for something bad to happen first, right? And so kudos to you, James, for your leadership on this.
Yes, thank you very much. I know it was a lot of work, whole lot of work. And I think it's, you know, this is just another example of a commitment of the city to public safety, and that we take very seriously. And this is just the next step that I think will enhance that even further. So thank you to you and your team for all your hard work you put in on this. I know it was a lot.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I will, just for clarification, sort of piggybacking off of an earlier request about going through the agreement that touches on fire, EMS, animal control, we also have an agreement with the county as it relates to radios communication. And so would it be appropriate for that update in the first quarter of 26, we also incorporate some of these other agreements?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Foote on these 2 items? We've only got 1 called now, but any questions right now?
The interlocal agreement looks better than what we just saw, doesn't it?
I hear you. I hear you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Foote. So then let's go ahead and take care of item E3. Do I have a motion on item E3?
Motion to approve item E3.
I'll second.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E3 passes, and we'll go ahead and call up item E4.
Item E4 is a resolution approving a change order to the Motorola System User Agreement to include the Texas Department of Transportation and the Texas Department of Public Safety in a cost-sharing agreement.
All right, do I have a motion with respect to item E4?
Motion to approve item E4.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on E4? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And E4 passes. We will then jump to our last action item, which is item E5.
Item E5 is a resolution setting public hearings on a proposed stormwater drainage utility and drainage utility fee.
Good evening, Ms. Lacy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. No presentation tonight. I just wanted to clarify for both Council and the public, the item before you is a resolution setting 2 public hearings. This does not set the storm drainage utility that has been discussed at previous meetings. It doesn't set any fees. It does not do any of that. All this simply does is triggers a timeline that we're required to follow in order to enact this, this utility and this fee. And Chapter 552 of the Texas Local Government Code requires that we first call 2 public hearings. So those are going to be on February 3rd and February 17th as of now. What we'll do next is we will publish drafts of both ordinances in the Advocate. We're required to publish that 3 times before the public hearings. Now, that doesn't mean also that the ordinances are set in stone just because they're published. These are drafts. So we can make changes to them after feedback at the public hearings, or if there's things that we decide that we want to change in either of them, we can certainly do that. So all I'm asking you to do tonight is to approve the public hearings we'll have in February. And we can at any time, if we need to, change the timeline, but this will trigger us getting started on getting both of those put in place later next year. So just wanted to make that clear to everyone as well as the public that might be watching, that we are not enacting a new fee or a new ordinance or anything like that tonight. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions on that process? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So then I will need a motion to set the public hearings on a proposed stormwater drainage utility and drainage utility fee for February 3rd and February 17th.
Motion to approve E5. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well, the hearings are set. So we will then move to city manager reports. Mr. Garza, I believe you have a couple of things for us this evening.
We do. We are first providing, or Joel, I should say, is providing an update on Tejas Fest, as well as making some recommendations on what to do this year. We'll be looking for some guidance from you on that. And then we'll conclude the city manager report section with an update that I'll be presenting on behalf of the collaborative work between staff and the compensation subcommittee. But first, Joel.
All right, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I'm very excited to be here tonight to talk to you all a little bit about Tejas Fest 2025 and have some results from the event, and as well as discuss our recommendations, proposals for 2026, and to get y'all's feedback and direction forward. So we had a wonderful event again in 2025 on October 3rd and 4th in downtown Victoria. We had a really great performances by our headliners, Pecos and the Rooftops on Saturday, you see pictured there, and Michael Salgado on Friday. Again, we brought back the All Tejano night on Friday, which was, we saw great success with that in 2024, and then mostly a country focus on Saturday, had great crowds there, and also highlighting some local entertainment. And as far as our festival features, we had another successful cornhole tournament, had 26 teams and an underwriting sponsor for that, which we didn't have last year for HTO, and as well as that was presented by Crossroads Cornhole and Kevin Henderson. A wonderful car show again with 72 entries managed by Bobby Sparkman and Hot Rod Tour Texas. And again, we had an underwriting sponsor for that one in Garage Transformers. Our vendor market was managed by Mother Cluckers Downtown. 55 10x10 spaces were filled. And then we had 15 food vendors, which were managed by city staff as far as their applications and layout and everything like that. I did do a survey to the food vendors, and a few of them got back to me, and they had gross sales typical of what they had last year. Some of them reported into thousands of dollars. So they all do pretty well considering the application fee is only $400 to $450, $400 to $450 depending on what type of electrical connection they need. And that vendor fee is in line with a lot of what the other festivals charge around here. As far as our Kids Corral, we brought our magician back, had 4 local entertainers on the stage there. I'm happy to say the Kids Corral is underwritten by a new sponsor, East Point Energy. They came in late, we're a $10,000 sponsor, a wonderful new company, and they were great to work with. Our Kids Corral, we had activities, 2 different activity providers, 11 inflatables from A+ Party Rentals, and 2 activities from Creative Stage Event Co. Those are both local companies. And then the Just for Fun photo booth had 364 folks come by and take pictures. 364 different groups of people came by to take photos. So that was a very well received. And again, a recurring theme here, which I'll touch on in a bit. We had an underwriting sponsor for that one with DTAR Healthcare System. So again, I'll touch on this in a minute, but our sponsorship achievements were very exciting this year. We had our petting zoo, sponsored by Urban Engineering from Wild Things Zufari, the Lucha Libre, our trick roper back, and the Chihuahua races, which I can say were much more engaging than the armadillo races. We actually had 8 entries. That was managed completely by the Pet Resort on Main, and we had Brother Gary Moses out there as MC. So it was quite a crowd around that, and they have expressed that they'd be very excited to bring that back. Our other festival features we had, of course, local talent such as Ballet Folklorico. We had our margarita contest underwritten by Speedy Stop Spirits and the tamale contest sponsored by Ventura's Tamales. We're exploring some possible changes with those. You know, the tamale contest had 15 people signed up, but only 5 showed up. The winner had 63 in 10 minutes, so he added about another 20 to his belt there, and we had about 6 or 7 margarita contest entries. But we're discussing. The competitions are very fun. It brings people out, and perhaps there's ways we can shake that up a little bit and bring some new things there. As far as our local media spending, we engage and work with pretty much every local major media outlet. And as you can see there, they often come back and give us a sponsorship. So between what we spent and what was donated to us, that's $31,000 in local media value there. And of course, we run Facebook ads. We run those through our CVB account. And you get a lot of bang for your buck there. Our main Facebook ad was $2,000 and had almost 15,000 visits to the Tejas Fest website. We also did a digital display campaign, again, through CVB with our annual campaign through AJR Media. We had a datafied digital display. It was probably not as impressive as the Facebook results, so lesson learned there. We'll probably direct a little more money to Facebook. The video campaign did see a very good completion rate and a lot of impressions there. And again, that was not costs attributed to the festival. That was through our buy through the CVB budget. So some of that creative was dedicated to Tejas Fest. Our local expenses, one thing we're very proud on is hiring as many local service providers as we can. So of our expenses, about approximately $105,000 of that was to local companies. Work shifts covered by volunteers, 139. You can see quite a few of those, 93 are also covered by staff. I'll touch on that in a bit, but that is a challenge, volunteer recruitment. And I've heard that from a lot of nonprofits and event organizers. It seems like since the pandemic, one thing that's hasn't rebounded that much is volunteering. It's been hard to get volunteers back. Website statistics for the month leading up to Tejas Fest. We had, again, high visitation on our website, 22,000, about 22,000 main Tejas Fest page views, as well as a little over 3,200 views of the Tejas Fest schedule. And then our Facebook page through the month leading up to Tejas Fest had over 634,000 visitors. So a lot of exposure out there for the event. This is a new tool that we utilize in the CVB, and I wanted to touch on this a little bit. This is called Placer. And you're able to, with this program, create custom POIs, points of interest, and use their tool to develop a map. So that area comprises most of the main festival area of Tejas Fest. Of course, you have that little section at the bottom left there. That is the Kids Corral. We have our car show in the parking lot of the tax office, but I didn't want to include that because I didn't want to include people doing their regular business throughout the day on Friday before the event kicks off. Now, the way Placer does this is they track cell phone data and use their algorithms to extrapolate, so it is an estimation. It's not an exact count of people, but we've used different tools in the past, and this was the first one that actually has been giving us numbers, or at least an idea of numbers on what the visitation could be for the event. You can see visitors there at about 20,000 over the 2 days of the event. An average stay time over about 2.5 hours. So we're getting people down there, and they're staying there. What is our most visited day? Of course, we have Friday, October 3rd, and our attendance on that day was about 8,500, and Saturday 14,500, according to Placer. So Saturday was our more visited day. It makes sense because we have activities all throughout the day. Now, compared to Tejas Fest 2024, it was a little bit of a decrease. In 2024, Friday had 9,500 visitors, and then Saturday had 17.3 thousand visitors. I wanted to include this line graph here because you can see the 2 high marks. This is from October 1st, 2024 through December 13th, 2025. Those 2 high marks are Tejas Fest. The other high points are the Christmas Parade, followed by the Crossroads Barbecue and Brew Festival, Marion, Maine, Cinco de Mayo. But that main De Leon Plaza event area, Tejas Fest, is the most attended event in that area. This is a graph of when we saw, what times we saw the most visitors throughout the event. This could be a useful tool for us for scheduling of music artists, right? You can actually see that the most attendance was at 9 p.m. and it kind of starts tailing off towards. So if we want to think about our strategy for booking artists, perhaps we don't throw so much money at a headliner and not have much left for a direct opening, but maybe we balance it out a little bit in terms of the spend and the reach, you know, the fans of that artist. So it does give us some time that it seems like, you know, the peak time is 9 p.m. and by the end of the festival, it's gone down a bit.
But the problem is, isn't some of the attendance driven by when the artist is there?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So we have our artists this year, Pecos and the Rooftops, they started their set at 10:15 and went until 11:30. So just by what I could see out there, you see a lot of the families starting to leave by that point. People there's plenty of people there still with their young children. You know, a lot of people I was hearing really enjoyed Corey Morrow and were more excited to see him, and that, you know, it appealed to that 40 plus age bracket kind of, you know, and the Pecos and the Rooftops appealed more to that 20-something set. So a lot of your folks with families were leaving by then, right? So it does depend on the artist. It's always a, you know, you're doing your best. You're never quite sure how, you know, people are going to come out and how they're going to, you know, stay and attend the festival. But, you know, one thing I've seen, you know, at Tejas Fest, and I even saw it the year before with Chris Cagle and Josh Abbott, is that it seemed like at Chris Cagle's end of his performance, beginning of Josh Abbott, that's when the most people were there. And about halfway through that Josh Abbott performance, people kind of started trailing out a little bit. So do we throw, maybe it's not wise to throw so much money at a headliner and then not have as much for their direct support who's in front of them. Maybe we balance that out a little bit. And
I think, or revisit the time slots,
sure,
right?
absolutely.
But to your point, absolutely, when people go out is driven by talent. And so one of the reasons why we're wanting to have this conversation with you all now is because last year, going into this year's festival, the recruitment, if you will, for talent started really late. And so compared to the talent that we had in 24, we spent more money on talent in 24 and started trying to find talent sooner in 24. And so you see that we have numbers to back up that when you have better talent, like we did in 24, we had a greater turnout than this year. And so that's why we want to have the conversation now to get some direction on what to do with 26 so we can start that recruitment. And he's got a slide that'll hit on that later in his presentation.
Yes. And then again, this was presented in that first slide, but you know, we're getting people down to Tejas Fest and they're staying there. You know, the average stay time is over 2.5 hours. In looking back at how the festival went this year, successes, sponsorship was a big one. We increased, our goal was 75,000. We beat that. Our total sponsorship was 87,610 from just less than $14,000 the year before. Chihuahua races were more engaging than the armadillo races. And then we also had a bottled water and soda sales booth, so as to people didn't have to wait in line at a food vendor if they just wanted a bottled water. That was managed by the Walk to End Alzheimer's. That partnership actually allowed us to bring in Del Papa as a sponsor too, because they have a very close relationship with Walk to End Alzheimer's. So when they heard that we were in discussions with them about how to help, because their walk was that same day, was October 4th, that morning, that made Del Papa interested about coming in as a sponsor. So they, Walk to End Alzheimer's, actually used their booth space, which is part of the sponsor benefits for Del Papa. Chances to improve, the permanent restrooms, we need to make those available for all attendings during all hours of the event. We made those just for VIP this year. Past year, that seemed to be one of the main sticking points with people, if you looked out on social media, is that those should have been available for all staff, for all people during the event. And that's a lesson learned, right? Our VIP area visitation, and I'll touch on this in a minute, wasn't as big as we thought it was going to be. I mean, you see the sponsorship numbers. We gave out 250 VIP passes each night, and the sponsors, you know, don't use them as much, possibly. We, if I'm guessing the max amount of people I might have saw, there might have been 100 people in there on Saturday night. Another thing is to create a way for food vendors to sell bottled water and sodas while avoid cutting into the funds for Walk to End Alzheimer's. One of the things that brought in Del Papa was that, we're giving exclusive rights to sell bottled water and soda to Walk to End Alzheimer's because that would help them. There was actually an idea from one of our food vendors during the event. He actually had a pretty good idea. He said, well, if some food vendor wants to sell bottled water and soda, just charge them an extra $50 with the stipulation that could go to the charity. And I was like, that's not a bad idea, and that's guaranteed money for whatever charity might be running that bottled water and soda booth. I think that's still a good thing to have, especially during peak times when the wait for a food vendor is really long and somebody just wants a soda. They just want a water. But there's a way to make that also work for the food vendors because they were getting complaints from people like, hey, I'm walking up and I'm buying my, plate of food and I'd like to just get a water now. Oh, you have to walk to the other side of the festival and get a water at the booth. So there's a way to make that work for everybody. And then find locations for the portable toilets that are least disruptive to downtown businesses. There's just some sections where we put portable toilets that were an issue on Main Street. So we're going to work with Christie and Environmental Services and look at the festival map and find a place that is really out of the way for everybody. Again, even with the public restrooms, the permanent restrooms, you do need to have portable toilets because those permanent restrooms cannot be expected to manage the entire amount of people. You'll have breakdowns if that's the case. Any questions before I kind of break into the financial numbers? Great. So you can see the allotment from City of Victoria last year from the hot funds was $150,000. Our goal for sponsorships was 75. We exceeded that. Beer sales and ice sales, our goal was 70. We did not do what we had hoped for. That's a tough one to, it's like can't encourage people to drink more. It's how do you, find possibly new revenue streams to make up for these trends you're seeing in decreased beer sales, which I'll touch on in a moment. Vendor fees, we did a little better than budgeted because we had many vendors. Most of them were the 250 volt connections. So that was a $450 fee versus $400. And then shirt and koozie sales, we need to revisit, kind of our shirt designs because we still have a fair amount of shirts from featuring a festival lineup in the office. So as far as festival merchandise, it's still a great thing to provide. We may just want to reduce the quantities we purchase there and just once we're sold out kind of thing. Any questions on the revenues? Great. All right, well, I will touch on festival expenses. It's quite a big graph here. I'll touch on mostly, because this could take a while to go down line item by line item, so I'll just touch the items that had the biggest variances as far as expenses go. Mixed beverage sales tax. That was a variance of over $9,000. That's just a reporting change for the Tejas Fest 24 report and the 25 budget. That was included in the beer for resale line item. That was broken out in the report by finance this year. So that really, and you can see the beer for resale expense was $10,000 less. So that accounts, that mixed beverage sales tax, that was something we paid in 24 as well. Sound and light production, that was almost $7,000 more than what we anticipated. That can be a variable cost depending on what the artists are requiring and just the increase in costs for materials, that sort of thing, and renting things. We do use a local company for that. They have done a fantastic job. Clay Crockett and his crew from Sotex Production Co. have done a great job. And when we receive quotes from other entities wanting to do production, their quotes are $50,000 or more. So we get a really good deal there from Clay and his crew there with Sotex. Shirt and koozie purchase resale. Actually, in this, the staff and volunteer shirts were kind of combined with it, so that's why it explains the variance. VIP food, we had a variance of over $1,800. That was because we did really good in sponsorship. So when you do good in sponsorship, there's more VIPs. And then supplies, we had a variance of 17, a little over 1,700. That was due to some past practices with purchasing trash carts for the event. I've worked with environmental services. We've set aside 50 carts to be dedicated just for Tejas Fest use. Typically, year in and year out, the carts will be purchased, and once the festival's over, they'd be put into circulation and things like that. Those are now going to be set aside in storage, so we won't have to purchase trash carts for the event next year. So that will cut down on our supplies cost. And then another one is city overtime, and this is a tough one because most of this is PD and security. You know, that's something we don't want to cut, right? Security in today's day and age. You know, it's better to overspend and have a very secure event than try to be saving money in something so critical as security. So we're expecting that cost to kind of remain the same, just being what it costs to pay all our officers to keep us safe at the event. And that's one of the biggest compliments Tejas Fest gets, is how safe people feel there. Any questions on the expenses? Great. So what are some challenges as we look forward to 2026? Of course, high cost for live music fees. You know, I do all the pricing for the artists, and you'd be surprised how many artists out there cost $100,000 or more. You know, it's definitely a balancing act. We work closely with Kicks 108, Club 1069 Tejano to get their feedback on artists and who are doing well, and we'll do the same again this year. Of course, costs for service providers can always be predictable. Volunteer recruitment can be tough. And then we have to fill those especially critical roles with city staff. And then, of course, I mentioned the decreasing beverage sales. And some of that could be cultural, right? You are seeing Gen Z, younger generations are drinking less, right? So what is the answer? How do we catch back up on revenues? Well, the low-hanging fruit is selling VIP passes to the general public. This has been something that's been brought up by folks for years. You know, we had more in sponsorship this past year than we had any Tejas Fest or Boot Fest, to my recollection, going back. And that VIP area to the left of the stage had a lot of room in it. So if you imagine if you charge $150 a night, or you have a discount for a 2-night ticket, I did the breakdown. I looked, and this is not just a random estimate, the 35,000. I looked at the area in that VIP area. The area available did 12 square feet per person, and looked at the max number of money we can make for selling. That would fit plus 250 VIP passes again, plus that area could fit about 385 people. Right? So if you had 250 from VIP passes, let's just say a good round number, 125 VIP passes we could sell each night to the general public. If you sold all of them, all 125 for $150 a night, that's $37,000 and some change. If you sold all of them as 2-day passes for $250, that's about $32,000. So $35,000 is kind of in the middle there. So that could be our potential revenue from selling VIP passes to the general public. And I think we'll sell them because people were coming up to the beer booth and the ticket booth saying, how do we get in that VIP area? I'll pay right now to go get in there. And if you think, you know, it sounds a lot for a ticket, but that's about what the Crossroads Barbecue and Brew Festival charged for their VIP. And in our VIP, you get free food. We can break out the difference between, you know, sponsors could get unlimited drinks. You know, you could have a limited number of drinks for general public VIP, that sort of thing. That's getting into the weeds. But, you know, that's the low-hanging fruit on as far as revenue streams that we're missing out on. Another one even could be a profit share with a mobile bartending business. Again, this is just an idea, but could provide something that could provide a variety of drinks for people. And then, you know, just sharing those profits with them. That's another thing to explore. Moving on to our 26 proposal, as far as the structure of the event, nothing would change as far as the days and times. Main stage, Friday night Tejano and Saturday night country. That, you know, structure has worked very well for us. Lots of daytime activities throughout the event. Keep that VIP area to the left of the stage while opening up, fencing it in a way that opens up the restrooms, the permanent restrooms for the public. And that would necessitate buying something like a luxury restroom trailer. You can rent those from the VIP area. So there is that exclusivity for them still. And you can get those for a couple of $1,000s for a weekend. So Going on to the 2026 proposal. Looking at the revenue line item, right now as it stands, the proposed request for council for allotment from COV would not be as much as last year. 135,000. The event sponsorships, to be conservative, I kept that target at 85,000, but we would work to eclipse what we did this past year. Beverage sales, considering if we have VIP ticket sales, you could have some of those folks not purchasing beer then, right? Getting free drinks, that sort of thing. So I was very conservative as far as the beverage sales at 50,000, VIP pass sales, which I mentioned at 35, vendor fees and merchandise sales. So going on to anticipated costs, main stage, second stage, live music fees. I also include in there entertainer hotels, hospitality, like meals for them. COV overtime, keeping that consistent with what we had this past year. Again, I'm not going to go down every line item, but there weren't, the total expenses you see there at the bottom at $314,950. Our total revenue at $315,400 for a pretty much break-even amount. And I can take any questions you have this time.
I'll just briefly, can you go back, Joel?
Sure.
I don't have a slide for this, but you may recall over the last couple of fiscal budget presentations, us talking about our hotel occupancy tax fund and the revenues, and just this reality that, it's not sustainable long-term unless we see an influx of increased revenue on the hot fund for us to continue to support the festival at 150, continue to do the support for the outside agencies on top of doing everything else that we do. And so I think it's just important to be mindful of that. I think it's a good thing that we're proposing an amount that's lesser than 150,000. I think that's trending in the right direction. But I just think it's important that we just keep that in mind, that it's not sustainable long-term to rely on $150,000 every year for the festival. I think we're all, at least I believe we're all on the same page with trying to continue to find ways to lessen the amount of money that comes from the hot funds. And so obviously Joe has some ideas for this year, but we're curious to get any feedback or input on what we're proposing so that Joe can start doing some of that research for artists.
Joel, let me ask this question.
Yes, sir.
We have an estimate on attendance, I think at around 20,000. We'll just call it that for round numbers. Do we have any idea? I'm sure the majority of that is local folks. Do we have any idea of kind of out-of-town attendance that actually came to Victoria and stayed the weekend for this festival?
And majority of it is residents.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, our hotel occupancy was actually down a bit this year compared to last year. So it is a majority residents. Yes.
Yeah. I figured it would be mostly local. So
yeah.
Okay.
They are coming from looking at the heat maps on Placer areas maybe 30 minutes out from us, smaller towns.
Right.
So that's an opportunity to reach out more, because if you add those small towns up, that's thousands of people together. So there are people willing to make that 30-minute to 45-minute drive, and that showed in the maps from Placer.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, Joel, you did a presentation before about the difference between a one-day versus a two-day event, if I recall. And I don't remember the specifics in that regard. I know that Friday attendance is always less than Saturday, whether that's artists, but I imagine Friday night football and all the other events going on in the community tend to pull away from that. And just want to, I guess it's just about revisiting that. I know that there was a cost difference, but you didn't get as much bang for the buck on one day as a 2 day.
When I reached out to our service providers, most of their expenses, whether it's a 1 day or 2 day, are the same. The only place you're really saving money is city staff pay and entertainment fee. Like, so the $32,000, the sound, light, and video, it's the same if it's 1 day or 2 day. And then you're missing out on the revenues from beer sales or VIP pass sales. So it's not a magic bullet to say, well, let's make it 1 day, and that'll cut down our costs by a lot.
I recall some of that, but wanted some specifics in that regard, so thank you.
Any other questions? comments in terms of kind of moving forward? I mean, is this, I think you're seeking feedback on, is this something we want to continue to explore for the community and, you know, kind of build on the success of the last couple of years?
Ultimately, yes. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be tonight, but it's certainly something that, you know, we'd like to get some feedback on over the next couple of weeks so that after the holidays, Joe can really hit it hard, you know, with trying to find some of that talent.
I mean, I can start, you know, doing the pricing and everything. If we're getting the feeling that we're going to move forward with this, I can start reaching out to the booking agencies and getting pricing, because January is really that month you want to start making offers and booking people. By February, they're starting to get booked up, and by March, April, starts getting really hard to find people who are available. And it's getting that way especially too, because a lot of the artists we can afford, that group is getting smaller, right? The live music acts, their fees are going up, but they're not getting so much money from the record companies anymore. They're getting fractions of a cent from Spotify, right? So they're making their bread with live music. So artists who are, you know, not out there winning ACM awards every year are $500,000, really, you know? So those small to mid-sized festivals, you know, they're competing for a smaller pool of artists. So getting out there ahead of the game and getting out there early is really key.
Got it. Well, you know, I would just say from my standpoint, I think, again, to echo what we said right afterwards, you know, I think you guys did a fantastic job. You know, I think we've had 2 years of very successful events that, you know, as you pointed out tonight, you know, we learned some lessons and can do it better. It's something to build on. Personally, I think a community event like this is important. I think it you know, brings the community together, creates a sense of unity in the community, and I would like to see us, you know, continue to explore, hey, how do we make this even bigger and better? Because I think it's a great event for our community, and I'm glad that it's back personally.
I think at the 135,000, if I'm doing my math right, we're investing in the community and the people that come out about a little over $5.50 as an investment on our part for them to have something engaging within the community that they can look forward to.
I mean, it's not everywhere you can see Chihuahua races. You know? I mean, you know.
That's where I think your T-shirt sales need to be, is the Chihuahua races.
Right? That's some good creative. Yeah, that would be fun.
Any other comments? No. Okay. Thank you for the information.
Thank y'all very much for the time this evening.
All right.
Gilbert said I have 2 minutes.
He's generous.
When the Godfather gives you direction, you know, you ignore. Ready? All right, so I'm going to provide you an update on behalf of the Compensation Committee, which of course includes Council Members Butler, De La Garza, and Lofgren. And as you know, the committee was established last year by Mayor Crocker to help us look at just how can we be more aggressive and more intentional and more targeted with our recommendations and our pay program. We obviously did a historic pay program that went into effect just this fiscal year, beginning October 1st. And by all accounts, that's been very well received, specifically by by police and fire. And so nothing but great feedback on that front. However, we know that there are other areas that we need to look at. And so specifically, I'd like to talk to you about 2 of those areas. First, talk to you a little bit about Public Works, specifically the utility division. You may recall when I provided the update at our last meeting, talking a little bit about the challenges that we're having on the utility maintenance worker position and that division in general. You may also recall that very last minute, we ended up adding a little over $200,000 in the fiscal year 26 budget to do an additional enhancement to those utility-centric positions, and so I'll talk a little bit to that. And then second, I'm gonna hit on dispatchers. Dispatchers was a group that there's just been a lot of change in that market, and so there's a need for us to be a tad more aggressive and intentional with pay for dispatchers, but also viewing them as first responders and following a very similar model with them that we currently do with police and fire. And both of the updates that I'll be providing to you this evening with that group of employees, we plan on making effective January 1st. So first with Public Works, I'm not going to read every single line of this, but basically we want to be more competitive. We obviously have some vacancies in that area. And through conversations with the compensation committee, we started to look at things a little bit different. Originally, when we were looking at enhancing pay for the utilities division, we looked at just that division, and we simply just looked at their struggles to retain and attract individuals. And the more that we talked to the committee about the issue, the more we realized that we really needed to compare that position with other similar-like positions in our organization. And I mentioned at the last meeting, and I'll mention again, but Councilman Butler had an excellent idea to reevaluate even just what we call the position. And so as part of that exercise, we started to put together a comparative analysis, if you will, between certain positions across our organization that to the outside world might seem like they're very similar, but in fact are actually very different. And so for the next couple of slides, we've got some information on park maintenance worker, street maintenance worker, building maintenance tech, utility maintenance worker, and the maintenance technician at either of our plants. And as you see the next couple of slides, I want to very intentionally note that as you progress from left to right, the level of requirements, skill set, challenges, responsibilities evolves and it grows. And so on the left-hand side, you start with our parks maintenance worker, which of course is responsible for maintaining our parks. Then you move to streets, and they start to maintain some additional infrastructure that starts to become a little bit more critical, right? Obviously, streets are critical. Not that parks aren't, but you start to see sort of this elevation of the critical sense of this infrastructure. You start to also get a sense of the requirements. So once you start getting into streets, you start getting into potentially requiring a CDL because of the equipment that they operate, right? And then you continue on. So building maintenance tech. Those are the folks that work for Roger, which of course handle a lot of our maintenance in our facilities, which requires a very specific skill set and knowledge base to handle HVAC work, plumbing, carpentry, electrical, et cetera. And so again, as you progress from left to right, just the level of experience and background that we're looking for these individuals starts to increase. We, of course, then get to the utility maintenance worker position, which is the one that we're predominantly going to focus on. But that's the one, of course, that focuses on maintaining the distribution system, handles water main breaks, wastewater main breaks. You know, these are the folks that obviously handle very critical infrastructure. We've been up here talking about the instances where they're working all night to ensure that our water quality and water system's intact. Obviously, that position equally important as our parks maintenance worker, but obviously the nature of their involvement with our water system elevates the level of importance, skill set, certifications, licenses, et cetera, that are needed. And then we get to our maintenance technician, which are handling an even additional layer of complexity with the systems that exist in either plant. So again, higher level of certifications, higher level of experience that are needed for those positions. And so you would think that based off of that the pay would gradually increase as that progression occurs from left to right. And so I'm not going to repeat all of this, but this graphic was put together by staff to basically illustrate how you go from parks maintenance worker, which you're working an 8-hour standard day. There's sort of some standard exposure to your environment, some basic technical skills, and you gradually start to move your way to the right, where now you're working more hours per day. Now you're being exposed to hazards that are a little bit more, challenging, working conditions that are a little bit more challenging, and the skill set begins to reach an advanced to expert level. But the pay doesn't match that. And so you'll see at the very top that it works really well for those 3 positions, but then you get to utility maintenance worker and it drops back down. And then it picks back up for the maintenance technician at the plants. And so spoiler alert, we're wanting to beef up the utility maintenance worker pay so that it more naturally and organically flows, filling that gap between 36 and almost 40. Does that make sense? Excellent. So part of what's driving this is, of course, vacancies. And we shared a different iteration of this with the subcommittee, and there was some feedback about the word term that was included in that. But we felt it was important to include the termination number. This termination number, if we were to overlay it over the last couple of years, actually triples. And I think that's very important because that speaks to the challenges of the utility maintenance worker position. The reason why there is a lot of turnover in both resignations and why there's a high termination rate in that division is because of the work schedule. It's difficult to have work-life balance when you're on call and you get called out in the middle of the night, you get called on the weekend. We have employees that intentionally, if I go back to this, we have employees that intentionally go from utility maintenance worker to street maintenance worker, making less money once you account for overtime, because they prefer a better, stable schedule than having to be on call. And the reason why we end up terminating a lot of individuals is because we call people in and they don't come in. And so the number one reason why somebody gets terminated in our utility maintenance worker position is because they become no-shows. They're called in while they're on call and they don't show up. And if we can't rely on these individuals to come in and address such critical infrastructure, which is our water system, then they're just not going to cut it for us. And so it just speaks to the high skilled and just the reliability that's needed from this position. And so let's talk a little bit about the overtime aspect of it in comparison specifically to streets, because it's literally the closest thing that we have in our organization to compare it to. These overtime hours are specifically driven by call-outs. So we were very intentional with trying to pull out, overtime hours caused by low personnel. And so this basically gives you a sense of how often the utilities division folks are called after hours, and the number of overtime hours. The right bar chart gives you a sense of how long they're called out when they're called out. You've heard me again talk about instances where they're working all night. It's just a completely different expectation that we have of these individuals, and it flies under the radar. And so I think it's important to note that it's a very unique expectation that we have of these individuals, and it does require an individual that's very committed and reliable. And unfortunately, that can be hard to find. And so we're hoping by making a pay enhancement, we're able to attract a different tier of an individual and background, but also be able to retain more individuals, because as we've mentioned, it's obviously a critical part of our operation that we need to make sure we stay on top of, because it can lead to complications if we don't. So what we're recommending is changing the job title from utility maintenance worker to utility systems technician. And if I were to go back, I kind of joked with Councilman Butler in the committee, because it obviously flows really nicely to change the job title to include the word technician, because currently it's sandwiched between two technician positions. And so something we probably should have, caught sooner, but this exercise was really helpful to really understand what needed to change. And so again, we're proposing and wanting to make effective January 1, changing the job title to utility systems technician, increasing that pay, the starting pay from 34.8 to 38, which would I keep using the word sandwich now.
Hungry?
I think I am. Tuna, please. But would sandwich the pay in between the building tech and the plant tech. Naturally, when we enhance pay for our frontline employees, there's a compression issue that brings to light. And so we are also suggesting that we beef up the pay for equipment operators with our utilities division, as well as the crew leaders, in order to avoid some of that compression that could be caused if we didn't address those two things. And as mentioned, we included in the budget a little over $200,000 for enhanced pay, and this falls within that range. So no budget amendment needed for what we're trying to do with these positions. And before I kind of get away from these positions, happy to turn it over to any member of the committee for any insights or anything you'd like to add specific to the utility maintenance component. Or just answer any questions that you might have.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we spent a lot of time looking at this and going back and forth. I think this is needed, very needed. I think it will serve the purpose that Mr. Garza just alluded to as far as recruitment and retention. And you're going to have a different group that are looking at this potential position just based on the title alone. So the title change plus the pay plus adjusting for that move within the other areas, I think is really essential. So just know that we put a lot of time and effort into it.
Sure.
Makes
Thank you.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so moving on to dispatch. Needless to say that they are a very critical part of our public safety response. These are, of course, is a 24/7 operation, and we've got some challenges. We've got some challenges with vacancies. As you might imagine, it can be a very stressful environment to be in. And in looking at what's to come in the near future, we find ourselves with a challenge. We already have 2 open positions, but we do expect some retirements and some transitions over the next few months, which will only exacerbate that issue. And so we want to be as aggressive as we can be with pay for these positions in several ways. One of which is the initial hourly rate, and then a couple of other things. But really quick, before I get into that, we're also in a competitive disadvantage currently. And so when we proposed the fiscal year 26 pay program, we didn't recommend changing the hourly rates for dispatchers. All we did that went into effect October 1st was establish a certification program for them. Because similar to law enforcement, they can also attain intermediate, advanced licenses, and so, or certifications, and so we incorporated that into that. That recommendation that was made that went into effect in October was based off of a compensation study that we had done like 18 months ago that was based off of data from like 2 years ago. And so since then, there's been major changes in the surrounding market as it relates to dispatch. And so as an example, our biggest competitor for dispatch is the sheriff's office. And in that 2-year time frame, they've increased their starting pay for dispatchers from roughly 19 to 23. And so our recommendation that went into effect on October 1st didn't account for that change. And so we need to catch up, basically. And I would suggest not only catch up, but improve significantly the way that we're compensating our dispatchers in a way that not only matches the sheriff's office, but enhances and hopefully recruits or helps us recruit some dispatchers. But let's talk a little bit about the hourly aspect of it. So as I mentioned, or I didn't mention, but currently our starting pay is also roughly $19 an hour. I'm blanking out on the figure. What is it, Wesley?
1960.
Okay, 1960. Thank you, Wesley. And currently we only have a position for dispatcher and we have a lead. And so it's been a challenge for us historically on how we account for tenure and how we pay our experienced dispatchers, because we don't have levels. And dispatchers don't have a step plan like police and fire that creates some separation based off of your years of service. And so we're in essence recommending that we increase starting pay to $23 an hour to match where the county's at, but more importantly, create a step structure for dispatchers that does create some separation based off of years of service, and I'll show you a better table that shows that here shortly, but also creates a senior dispatcher position so that it creates progression. And we were very intentional, and we worked very closely with Interim Chief Fetters on this, very intentional in what we're requiring. And so we just had a certification program that went into effect on October 1st that I mentioned. And so we want to be intentional with, in addition to having the incentive to receive these certs, in addition to that incentive being that annual certification, you need that increased certification to promote to senior dispatcher, and then an additional certification to promote to lead dispatcher, right? And so we're creating levels that just make more sense and make it more consistent with the way that we're approaching PD and fire, because our dispatchers truly are first responders. Similar to the police and fire steps, we're recommending that there is a embedded 3% step increase every 2 years for a dispatcher and for a senior dispatcher. Again, the same as is the case for PD and fire. And then once you become a lead dispatcher, that decreases to 2% between steps, which is also consistent with what we did for command staffs for police and fire this year. And so this gives you a sense of what that looks like once we lay it out in the exact same format that we release the step structure for police and fire personnel. And so as you can see, you'll come in as a trainee, and it usually takes about a year to get fully trained. And then you start at that 2346 rate, and as you progress in your years in position, you get that pay bump. And then the moment that you qualify to become a senior TCO, and again, that's based off of years of service and certification, then you can make that jump to senior TCO and so on and so forth. And so our hope is that by having a structured step, we become a desirable place to work, because we know that our competitors in the region do not offer a step structure for dispatchers or certification pay. In addition, we're going to also soon launch a sign-on bonus effort for dispatchers in an effort to try and recruit experienced dispatchers to our department. Similar to what we recently launched for a sign-on bonus for experienced police officers, same thing for dispatchers. And so again, we're just reiterating treating and dispatchers as first responders through the sign-on bonus creative mechanism, as well as the step structure. And all in all, we're recommending making that adjustment January 1st, as I alluded to. The annual cost of this actually hovers around $200,000, a little over that. But because this would go into effect January 1st, we don't need 100% of those funds in order to implement it. Unlike the utilities division, we did not include additional funds in fiscal year 26 budget to fund this enhancement. So we will be bringing forward a budget amendment in January to account for that $160,000 to make this effective January 1. And in addition, if you're thinking, well, that's great for those two groups, what group is next? We've been very clear with the compensation committee that after completing these two enhancements January 1st, our focus shifts to fiscal year 27. It's going to be a very busy spring with civil service, with collective bargaining, and so we won't even have the capacity to take deep dives into any particular subgroup in our organization. All of our efforts with the subcommittee after the holidays will transition to solely focusing on things that would go into effect October 1st. And so with that, again, I'll gladly turn it over to any member of the committee that'd like to add anything related to this.
I like this with the dispatchers. It's creative. It puts them in line with our other public safety. I've always thought that was part of the same organization, and I know that it is, but to give it this additional credit, I like that. I appreciate it.
Great. Yep. Any other comments, questions?
I think it's just an extension of our commitment to public safety. And as a reminder, those are the individuals that when our community calls in an emergency, we want the best and the brightest on the other end of the line. We want to recruit and retain the best and the brightest, because that is a reflection of not just first responders, but the city as a whole.
But certainly wish the best to those that are about to retire,
Yes.
even though we're going to miss them.
Well, hopefully we can convince them not to.
That sounds good.
Working on that.
This helps be an employer of choice.
There you go. No, agreed.
Much better said than what I came up
No,
with.
no.
Yes.
No, and thanks to the committee. I know that was, those of you on it, I know that was a lot of work went into this, and I think both of these recommendations make a lot of sense based on kind of, where kind of the holes in the organization are. And so thank you all for identifying that and figuring out a way to address that. It's good work there.
It was a joint effort, Mr. Garza, Ms. Campos, and Mr. Gilbert over there really gave us a lot of valuable information to process and provide feedback for. So it was a collective unit. That
And
worked
Wesley
together.
behind the scenes.
And Wesley behind the
Yeah, if I
scenes
don't call him
sending-
out, he'll
sending
like
messages.
bench press me
Yeah.
outside or something. So, okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Any other reports, Mr. Garza?
No, sir.
Okay.
And we do have an executive session.
We do have an executive session. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and we will reconvene executive session at 7:25.
Okay, the city council recess for executive session on the 16th day of December 2025 at 7:15 PM. The deliberation is as follows: Texas Government Code 551.07, 551.072, and 551.071.